Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina. I'm the host here. My guest today is a sister of a guest that I had recently on. This is Jenny from This Is Neat, but you know This Is Neat, your Townhouse Yarns. Welcome, and I love the wall behind you. It's just beautiful.
I actually only finished this last week. Like,
It's very pretty. It's hard for me to concentrate on anything else because my eye is just going from color to color.
it's been a work in progress. It actually was only half of what's here up until recently. I kept on meaning to, pull the shades, and it was just one of those things that was kind of pushed down the list. But one day the other week, I was just like, "Do you know what? No, stop everything. The wall needs to get done." So yeah, no, I love it now. I walk by the window and I'm like, "Oh, it looks so pretty now." So.
Well, when I was interviewing Lisa, she was sharing the story. And if you guys haven't watched it, go back and watch This Is Neat, Lisa Sisk's interview. So she was sharing her story of how she went from basically low career into opening a yarn store with your mom. Tell me a little bit, like, how was it to be a younger sister of Lisa?
I would say she's the overachiever of the family. She probably would say the same thing herself. Yeah, she did very well in school, and I wasn't up to par in school than with how she was. But yeah, she's a great big sister. I'm the youngest of four. So, but Lisa's the closest in age to me, and I suppose I've always been closest with her and maybe got along with her the best. But yeah, no, when she sets her mind to something, she does it. So
Well, do you remember like first memories of knitting in your family?
I actually, for myself, now Lisa would remember when my mum used to knit years ago, but because there's actually 4 years between me and Lisa, my mum had actually stopped by the time I have any memory of her knitting. So I don't think that it was really something that was done when I was growing up. I never remember seeing anything around the house or anything like that. Now, in school here in Ireland, they would kind of, depending on your teacher, uh, whether they knit or not, you might get taught in school. But I think we did embroidery in my class. So the first kind of wool that was ever put into my hands was by Lisa. So
Do you remember her coming from New Zealand and like being obsessed with different fibers? Like, was that a big deal in the family?
yeah, like the reason, I don't know if she told you, the reason she came home was because my son was actually very sick in hospital. And so she basically was like, look, this is something that I've really enjoyed picking up. You're here for hours on end. Here's some wool and needles, and I'll get you going. And I kind of like at that point, I was like, no, thanks. It wasn't something that I really had a big interest in. And then they obviously were talking about between themselves because Mam used to be a knitter and Lisa knew that about the lack of natural fibres being available in Ireland. And I think Lisa jokingly said, we should do this. And Mam was kind of going, oh, maybe. And yeah, it just steamrolled from there, really.
Well, so they opened the store at some point. They started with shows, with selling yarn at the craft shows, and then they decided to jump in and open the store. At what point did you wake up one day and decided that you need to be part of that and you need to dye yarn?
Do you know, I was asked a favour, and they were short-staffed one weekend. And Lisa said, come here, will you just come in and be a body? I was like, I don't know anything about knitting. Now, at that point, I had done a very small amount. I think I'd made a cushion cover, but I didn't cast it on and I didn't cast it off and I didn't sew it up. I did the knitting. And so I was like, Lisa, how can I work in the shop? I don't know anything. Like, I couldn't advise anybody. And she was like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Just come in. I went, okay. I think it was like even just a lunchtime shift. So it was maybe 4 hours. And so I was like, okay. I went in. I I worked that 4 hour shift and I never left. And so I kind of going, can I come back? And she was like, do you like it? And I was like, yeah. I was actually, my daughter was only a year old then. And so I was like, ooh, adults. I get to speak to adults. And so I was like, okay, teach me all the things about yarn and knitting and everything like that. And between the people working in the shop, and then like I'd be on the phone to Lisa or Mum in the evening going, I think I've dropped a stitch. How do I fix it? And yeah, from there on, I just totally immersed myself in the knitting world. My first project was a hat. My second project was a cable scarf. My third project was a lace shawl.
Wow.
So I really like just teach me all the things.
When you think about knitting, is that something like, do you see it from the practical point of view or more artistic point of view? Because like dyeing yarn is sort of art. Like, where is knitting for you?
It would definitely be like the more creative side of things. I rarely wear my hand knits. That's a terrible thing to actually admit. I do it for the love of like the creativity side. Um, I I do wear them sometimes. It's not part of my kind of wardrobe,
Right.
which is really bad. I should fix that.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
don't.
let's talk about your discovery of hand-dyed yarns. Like, what was that like?
I think just from working in the shop, hand-dyed yarns, I suppose, how many years ago would it be now? 13 years ago when I started working in the shop. Um, they only had one hand dyer really stocked, and that was hedgehog fibers. And obviously, from feeling it, touching it, seeing it, and knitting with it, I was like, this is really cool. It's not your standard, you know, one color and everything like that. And so I was kind of just like talking to the staff, going, I think I could do this. I think I was a bit like someone needed to check my ego a little bit, but I was like, I could do this. And so I approached Lisa and I said, hey, what do you think about me dyeing yarn? And she was kind of a bit skeptical. And she said, I tell you what, they used to sell the dye your own sock kits
Mhm.
way back when. And she said, I think I have one of those in the house. She said, I'll give you that and see how you get on. So she gave it to me. And then I went straight home and was dyeing it in the kitchen. Now it was like one of those stick it in the microwave to set it kind of jobs. And I went back to her and I was like, no, that was cool. I like that. And so it just kind of steamrolled from there. I got my hands on more dye. I got my hands on more base and just started doing it out of my kitchen from then on and haven't stopped since.
Well, how did you learn? Because it's one thing to read the instructions on the package and follow the microwave instructions, and like what you're doing now has nothing to do with that method. So, how did you learn?
I bought one book that I don't like. It was a small bit helpful, but I just did. So, have I picked up tricks from, other hand dyers or, people over the years? Yeah, like a spin dryer. And so Justina was at our yarn festival, one that we used to run, and she asked me, or I think I was saying how I had to use my washing machine to spin it at the time, to get the heavy wet out. And she said, "Do you not have a spin dryer?" And I was like, "What is a spin dryer?" And she's like, "It's a top loader." And I was like, "No, I have never heard of one of these things." And I went and straight onto Google, where can I get a spin dryer? And it was the best thing ever. It just
Oh,
saves so much time. But it's, you just pick up these little things, but basic with the actual dyeing and how to create colorways and everything like that, it was all just, stick my witch's brew cap on and just get stuck in.
have there been any disasters in the kitchen?
Absolutely, there has. It's like if a dyer hasn't had any disasters, they're lying to you. Um, I used to have a shed. So I started in my kitchen, and then we had a purpose-built, I call it a shed. It was a glorified shed, but it was like out the back garden because
Mhm.
I was still working part-time in This Is Knit. And then so I had still small kids at home, so I wanted something that I could, still be around while working. And I obviously got distracted with a child one day and wasn't able to get back in time, and the water all evaporated, and I burnt some yarn. But I would say that's the worst thing that's happened.
Did you have a vision for like what you're trying to achieve? Was there a collection in mind when you started dyeing yarn, or was it like, oh, let me try this color and let me try this color?
There was no vision at the beginning at all. I, if you ask back, I think people would say that there was a lot of pink, just because I loved pink. So it was just what I gravitated towards. I've had to force myself to kind of broaden my horizons with color. I have a lot of blues, and I had like every time I go to dye a new color, I have to say to myself, no blue, no blue. You're not allowed to dye any blue. And autumnal colors wouldn't have really been something that I would have worn. So I had very few of them. And, people would be in my ear going, you don't have very many reds. Like reds, we only have those. But it's just, yeah, I have to sometimes be pushed in a certain direction. And then I'm glad when I do. But no, I'm very I would just grab inspiration from, depending on what it is you're working on at that time, whether it be with a designer who is designing something, so you create something specific, or the point of the wall as well was to see where the gaps were. So
Right. Well, when you think about your sister and your mother having a yarn store, is that a huge advantage to becoming a yarn dyer? Like, do you think you would be as successful and it would be that smooth if you just were on your own trying to dye yarn?
it's hard to answer that. I think, first of all, I'm under no illusion that it hasn't helped. Um, but like I'm doing it over 10 years now, and I've grown it slowly. Like, but it's had to move at the pace that I have been ready for. And when it started off, like I said, I was still working part-time. My kids were quite small. Then I moved into a new space, and then COVID happened. And then, I was homeschooling and everything like that. So it's only in the past year that we've moved into this big space, and that I've been able to, I suppose, put more of my time into it to grow it even more. So, whereas, yes, absolutely, I had you know, prime wall space in a yarn shop because my sister and my mom owned it. That like it was 100%, help.
No, and I'm not trying to take the credit away from
No,
you.
no. I'm saying I think yeah, I think Lisa's the driving force. Sometimes, when I get a little bit of kind of imposter syndrome going, she's there to kind of give me a boost up and be like, no, come on. So
Is it always easy to work with your sibling and your mom? Like, do you wish you did something else entirely outside of the family?
no, like it was never something that I kind of envisaged happening. Like I said, I really fell into it. I think I thought maybe that there might have been more issues, but to be honest, I think we actually work quite well together. And then, you can say certain things to your family that you can't say to other people. And sometimes it's good to just get those things out and be, and move on from them, which I think we're very good at. So it's like if we come across an issue, it's like, "Do you know what? Just say it, and then we figure out a solution and move on."
Well, how did you grow to be the dyer that you are today? Like, what changed from that first dyeing experience? The bases that you use, the colors that you come up with. Like, are you more systematic? Are you more planned in your work now? Or is it still like whatever inspires me, let me try it again?
I think kind of pre-moving in here, I had a lot of free kind of reign on what I had the capacity for. We'd kind of look at how many colors there is across bases, and not everything lends itself, say something with a yak content wouldn't lend itself to the same things that a pure merino or a merino nylon would lend itself to. We have not 8 or 9 bases at that point that I was trying to keep up with dyeing all of these shades on. So we had to kind of pare back a little bit at one point. But now with the new space, I've actually been like, no, we're going to dye as many colors on all the bases as possible. And even the wall behind me, because I needed a reference wall, but not everything was dyed on this base, but it had to be, so I could make it work. With the new bigger space and the help, because I dyed yarn by myself for 10 years. It's only in the last year that I actually took on staff. And now we're advertising to take on more staff. So I had to jump into a new role when that happened and plan more. And
was it hard to like relinquish control? Because it's one thing when you do it, you have your own schedule, you are responsible for your own mistakes, you're responsible for buying the bases that you feel like you want to add. And then when like you're getting help, it's like great on one hand, right? Because you don't have to do everything, but we're freaking out that like you have your name and your reputation online.
oh yeah, like I took a lot of convincing. The amount of times that I said to Lee, I'm fine. I'm handling it. Was I working 7 days a week? Yes. Was I bringing it home with me at the weekends? Yes. So I think we're a family of control freaks a little bit. And I took a lot of convincing to get there, and it was hard, I think, in the beginning, and I wasn't sure if I could teach it. I was like, I know what I do. I think there's a certain amount of intuition when it comes to dyeing yarn, especially like you're the one who created this. You know how much to speckle that with, or you'll know by looking in the pot whether something's gone wrong midway and that you need to try and fix. But like, how do you teach that intuition to somebody else? But I think we learned together. I was very open with her, going like, I've never taught anybody how to do this, so we're just going to take it day by day. Mistakes happen, and when they do, we're just going to move on from them. But now I think I've grown in confidence as a dyer now, because I'm able to see that I can teach it, and it is possible, and I do need the help.
Well, recently you introduced farm to yarn chunky base into your collection. So talk to me a little bit about it, why it's so special.
The reason farm to yarn is so special is, okay, Ireland itself has a really rich heritage of Irish woolen mills. And unfortunately, over the years, what you'll see around Ireland, if you visit, is a lot of them are derelict and they're not working anymore, as kind of new ways of new machinery and everything like that came around. So now, in conjunction with Ériu, which is another Irish brand who have basically gone out and sourced from Irish farmers all the fleece, and well, the farmers didn't see any kind of point in it, that like in Irish wool,
Right.
because they didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to shear it properly so it could be used for wool. And so this absolute goddess of a woman, sorry, Ériu is the Irish goddess. So, but this Zoe is an absolute goddess who basically just became obsessed with the whole process, and went and got in touch with all these farmers and is paying them above and beyond what it's worth to be able to take its Romney, lamb's wool and BFL. And they are milling it now themselves. So it's very special, because you don't get 100% Irish wool these days. It's either bought on the open market, or it's like mixed in with wool that's bought on the open market. And but the other thing that is very good or very special about it is that it is worsted spun as well. So you get the longer staples and it's much softer and there's it's not as rustic. So
Well,
it's
let's
worth.
talk a little bit because like people are very confused about worsted spun and like what differences the spinning of yarn makes. So educate us a little bit.
So woolen spun is when the fibers are in all different directions when they're being fed into the machine to be milled. And then the worsted spun is when they're basically carded beforehand going in and they're fed in when all the staples are laying flat. And so you get a much smoother finish in the end. So like usually like the hand dyes that you see behind me, they would be worsted spun. So it's not kind of it's not usual for you to see this kind of yarn worsted spun. So at the moment, although everything is Irish to a point, it has to be shipped to England to be milled over there because they have the mill set up to be worsted spun. But Zoe and Lionel of Ériu have actually they have their hands on a mill and it's being adjusted to be able to spin worsted. So in the future, it will all 100% be Irish from start to finish. So
and
that's
you're
very
continuing that because you're dyeing it in Ireland as well. So it becomes the full circle.
full circle. So it's really, really exciting. And I have to say, like, as a non-superwash yarn as well, I have dyed non-superwash yarns over the years and they've never been enjoyable. Like, I think I gravitate towards the kind of the more like the ones behind me with the cashmere, with the silk and yak, because they're a nicer feel. I'm a very textile person. I like the feel of it. So the thing with Ériu was I was handed the farm to yarn and it was such a surprise. I was like, what's that? And they said, it's Ériu. And I said, no, it's not. And they were like, yes, it is. I was like, but it's lovely. And the spin.
It is lovely. Actually, like when I saw you at Barcelona and you gave me a skein of yarn, and it's totally like such a pleasure, textile pleasure to feel it.
It really, really is. And it's a dream to dye. And it actually takes speckling quite well as well, which is something that with non-superwash yarn, you don't get really very often. You would usually see the colour getting blown out quite a lot. But now I think the spin on this makes all the difference. And it's got a lovely shine with the BFL as well. So
do you have any recommendations on like what would it be perfect to knit for?
So it is great for accessories. It's a chunky, so you're using 5-6 millimeter needles. We have made samples. We've made like brioche cowls. It's so squishy in brioche. We have made hats, and we are actually in the process of arranging a knit along coming up, and that's going to be a cardigan.
Oh, cool.
So it's really suitable for anything.
So if you guys want to participate in that knit along, it's your chance to get some yarn beforehand. And you mentioned that the knit along is in March, right?
I think, yeah, it's penciled in for March. More details to follow, but it is going to be a cardigan.
So how many colors do you have in this yarn right now?
Over 30. I started I think I started off at 20 something, and sometimes like you lay it all out and then you're going, something's missing. But I also was just like, I'm obsessed. Let's try this color. That worked out really well. Okay, let's try this color. And so it just kind of steamrolled. So yeah, it's over 30 now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Can't stop.
So where do you see yourself going with this? Like, do you have world domination ambitions?
Sure, why not? I think, I think like so far, we've been in a few shops around Europe and stuff like that. We are visiting H&H Americas now in May. But yeah, I want to bring the yarn joy wherever it wants to go.
I mean, I think it's also a great idea to talk to others about the revival of Irish yarn, because it's sort of like we all have the same problem worldwide. And if more people are conscious about the sustainability of it and the revival of local sheep breeds, I think we all will benefit from it.
Absolutely. Like it was being used here for insulation and something else that I can't remember right now, but just it not to its full potential. And, you know, we've spoken for years about, you know, somebody needs to just, you know, get up and do the legwork, and bless Zoe and Lionel, they've really done it. Like, and so it's amazing. And I think you're going to see a resurgence of it, like in Ireland for sure, but hopefully worldwide.
So how is your knitting nowadays? Do you even have time to knit with all the color, like number of colors that you're doing and number of bases that you're dyeing?
I will be honest, sometimes I go home and I don't want to look at yarn. And I nearly my finished objects is the yarn that I, you know, produce. I get to kind of sit back and go, ah, done. But I have a problem where I cast on a lot of things and I don't finish them for one reason or another. But I do have a sample that I'm hoping to finish this weekend. That I started before Christmas. I'm not the quickest knitter, as I have this ADHD kind of way of knitting where I will become obsessed with something and finish it super quick, or the complete opposite, and I have to force myself to finish it. So
I mean, I honestly don't even believe in the concept of somebody being a fast knitter per se. I mean, there are some exceptions. Like I had Hazel Tyndall on my channel, so she is definitely a fast knitter. But like I feel like for majority of us, it's more about how many hours we put into that than the actual speed of knitting. So I think you're busy enough not to have that many hours in a day left for knitting.
I had during COVID, I became an avid reader. I was never a reader before, and I think that kind of took over a little bit of my free time.
You know what I discovered? Actually, my trick is because I used to read like over 50 books a year, like on average, right? And since I discovered audiobooks, it became a winning trick because now I can knit while listening to the audiobooks, and it's two hobbies in one.
Yeah, I do that sometimes, but at this, I love a good book, and I'm a Kindle reader, like. But you say like over 50 books in 2000, and was it 22? There's a little tidbit. I read more books than there were days in the year. How? I don't know. I think this was like back in the day where, you know, we were still kind of, you know, isolating, or like, you know, school issues and all that kind of stuff. But I think I only probably slept 4 hours a night in order to be able to do that kind of reading. But yeah, it's like 372 books or something.
I was recently talking to a friend, and she mentioned something that like she was having an argument with somebody that yarn dyers are not artists. They're not fiber artists. Do you see yourself as, I know that was my reaction. Do you see yourself as a fiber artist, or do you see yourself more of a scientist who have to perform the same repeatable magic all the time?
No, I think I see myself as more of a fiber artist. Like, to be honest, like I don't, whereas like in my creation of colors, I'm quite a bit of that, you know, throw it in, see what happens. Obviously with some, I already have an idea of how those colors are going to mix together. And you take multiple notes, and when you're happy with it, like that's your recipe. But like I'm not like super scientific about it. I much prefer the freedom and the creativity that I get from it. So I think that's more of a fiber artist side of the.
Well, you mentioned that sometimes you come home and you don't want to think of yarn anymore. Do you dream of yarn? Do you dream of colors?
Not that I can remember. Like I was actually only talking to somebody about vivid dreams this morning. I can't remember the last vivid dream I had. No, I think like you can get inspiration from a lot of things, but I don't think I dream of it. No.
Let's talk a little bit about your family. Like, do they, like, you know, your husband, your children, do they think it's all nuts? Like the fact that you guys are all spending your life in yarn store and like dyeing yarn and everything, or are they being very supportive about it?
Oh, I think they're used to us all now. I think, well, when I used to dye wool at home, they'd come in the door and go, "Oh my God, the smell of sheep." I'm used to it. I don't smell it anymore. But yeah, they weren't impressed with the smell of sheep, but they're very supportive of what we do. I think, yeah, they're well used to us now. And like, around the dinner table when it's a big family dinner and they're like, "Please stop talking about work." But it doesn't even feel like work to us sometimes. So
Do you think your kids will be knitters?
no. I don't.
I'm still holding hope for mine. So, I
I've
don't.
I've offered to teach my daughter, but she's turned me down. So, but I won't give up. I'll keep snagging.
I feel like, once they get older, they might actually get some appreciation for that. Like I recently taught my youngest son's girlfriend how to knit, and now he's like somewhat interested to see if he can learn it faster than she did. So
Oh,
it,
brilliant.
there's definitely some interest somewhere in the air. So just finding the right time.
Yeah. Now my daughter says that she's going to come work for me when she's older, but I'm like, will I teach you how to knit? Oh no. During time off school, like I used to have to bring her to work with me during the summer. When she was smaller, and she's like, "Can I help?" And I'm okay. So she actually dyed a colorway a couple of years ago, and we called it Caitlin, and we made it part of a like limited range. And so yeah, she was like, did my yarn sell today? Did my yarn sell today? So, and then if she'd go into this is knit, she's like, "That's mine."
Well, do you think it's crucial for a dyer to be a crafter as well? Because like I've interviewed some dyers that don't need that it's just pure business to dye yarn. Like, I mean, they might have crafters in their family, but they don't need themselves. Like, do you think it's a crucial skill to have to understand it better?
I think I prefer myself knowing that, a certain something dyed a certain way will knit up a certain way, but I wouldn't say it's essential. Yeah, I think they're allowed dye wool and not knit or craft.
Well, if you were stranded on the uninhibited island and you could only bring one base with you, what would it be?
Oh, don't ask me to pick between my children. Like ever since I started dyeing it, I always loved Fade Street, which is our merino and silk single ply. But Clarendon sock has slowly been taking over, just for the versatility of it and the stitch definition. So I probably Clarendon sock and my Chiagos. Can I bring my Chiagos?
Oh, I wouldn't go to any island without that.
I like ever since I tried those, I don't use anything else. I refuse. I am a needle snob when it comes to those. So.
I mean, it's also like a great investment because like people think it's very expensive to buy a set of Chiagos, but they last you a lifetime. You don't need anything else. And basically like it covers all your knitting needs.
Yeah, yeah, and I have had mine for years. The only reason I need to get more is when I lose them or don't finish projects that they're on, and I need to buy extra. But yeah, I'm actually allergic to nickel, so it's great that they're stainless steel because I've had reactions to needles in the past, and it's not good.
Are you like a multiple project kind of gal?
Yes. Lisa was actually in here looking for a set of needles and I was like, check the project bags up there. And she's I think my stone crop was in there. And she was like, "Why isn't this finished? It's beautiful." I was like, "Oh, so many bubbles." And then yeah, she went digging around. There's multiple unfinished projects here.
Well, when you think about your life now, right, and you have team of people helping you, is there like favorite tasks that you would rather do all day and like least favorite tasks that you have to do?
Washing pots is the least favorite probably because I like keep getting bleach all over my clothes. But no, like I love all aspects of it. I don't mind, like I don't kind of delegate any one thing to somebody else. Like it's muck in from start to finish. Yeah, we share tasks around here. So no, I just love my job.
Are you good at like hand winding the skein of yarn into a hank?
Now, I did that for 10 years. And Lisa was always saying to me, you're going to really injure yourself. And I was like, no, no, I'm fine. Like it's like obviously keeping me limber doing all of this hand winding. I used to try and teach people in This Is Knit as well, the other workers, and in case I wasn't there and something needed fixing. And but I now actually employ somebody to do it. So actually that's one part I probably miss a little bit because I don't get to do it anymore. Um, but yeah, she uses an actual skein twister. And now I look at those and go, oh, I like the way they come out more than when I do it. Uh, but no, I've still got the skills.
Can you show us?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's one I was showing off earlier. I might need to stand up for this though. So you got to give it a good snap first of all to align all of the strands. And if you've got kind of one that's misbehaving, you just need to work it down to one end. Okay. So I go anti-clockwise. There's a lot of feel to this as well about the tension in the skein. You give it a tug, wrap the end around, and then I do this thing where I just walk it down. And there we go.
Bravo. No, you are such a professional because I've tried that before and mine looks more like a aerobics dance and then something very not uniform at the end. So you have it's the hand movements that you mastered there.
Yeah, I probably did that too fast for you to even see. But it's like one hand goes one way and the other hand goes the other way. And then when you get the right tension, you've got to like just kind of snap it so it joins in the middle, and then you just walk them up each other then. And there's an extra twist at the end that you have to do with one hand, I think. Maybe I should do like a Knit Stars how to skein your how to twist your skeins.
For sure. And you know what we're gonna do when I'm coming to HH Americas and you are there? You're gonna show it to me in real life and we're gonna practice together. Maybe we'll make a reel about it.
Absolutely, we will. When I was teaching Joanna, who we have doing them now, I basically sent her home with multiple skeins of different bases because they all react differently. And I was basically like, go practice. Just keep practicing, keep doing it. So you'll be walking around H&H Americas just like this all day.
That sounds like a great time to me, actually.
So by the end of the day, we'll get it down for you.
Well, thanks so much, Jenny. Thank you for being my guest today. Thank you for sharing your tricks and your story. And I'm looking forward to see you at HH Americas.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really, really nice talking to you as well. And yes, see you in May.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye.